Hello. To the uninitiated, cachaça is often dismissed as a Brazilian variant of rum, but maybe the most fun spirit category to say, cachaça. But for the serious spirit professional, that classification is not just reductive, it's technically inaccurate. Brazil is by far the world's largest producer of sugarcane, and cachaça is its most commercially and culturally important sugarcane spirit. And they make almost 1.5 billion liters each year, more than all the rums and in the neighborhood of global whiskey and global vodka production. And we're talking just from Brazil. Let's check out cachaça. While the majority of global rum is a byproduct of the sugar industry using molasses, cachaça is an agricultural spirit. It is born strictly from the first press fresh sugarcane juice called garapa. Legally, cachaça holds a geographical indication, or GI, defined in Brazilian law and recognized in markets like the USA. It must be produced from sugarcane that is actually grown in Brazil. Furthermore, it must have an ABV between 38% and 48%, and it must be the result of the fermentation of the juice of the Saccharum officinarium L plant. But why does this matter for, say, the palate? Well, molasses carries heavy caramelized notes from that boiling process in production. Fresh juice, however, retains the green volatiles, esters and aldehydes that evoke cut grass, rain-soaked earth, and tropical fruit. Today, we go deep into the Alambique and the artisanal heart of Brazil's spirit. Now, regarding the fermentation, microbiota and the foot. The complexity of high-end cachaça begins with the levante, the starter. Because the raw material is fresh sugarcane juice, it must be processed incredibly quickly to avoid oxidation and spoilage before fermentation begins. Unlike industrial spirits that use standardized dried yeast, artisanal Alambique producers often rely on spontaneous fermentation, or the foot, pé de cuba. Now, distillers utilize the native microbiota found on the cane's waxy skin. This will include Saccharomyces cerevisiae, but also non-Saccharomyces strains like Pichia and Candida, which contribute a higher concentration of secondary metabolites. We also have the traditional Brazilian technique that involves adding toasted cornmeal or rice bran to the juice. This provides needed nitrogen and nutrients for the yeast, but also introduces a subtle nutty complexity to the fermented wash. They call it vino or wine. Now, we do have to be concerned with controlling acidity. In the tropical heat, fermentation is fast, usually 14 to 24 hours. Managing the pH is a delicate dance. If it drops too low, bacterial contamination leads to excessive acetic acid, as in vinegar, ruining the distillate's elegance. And then when we move to distillation, we must distinguish between industrial and artisanal cachaça. Interestingly, Brazilian law does not stipulate a particular type of still design or distillation strength, meaning you will see everything from small pot stills to towering continuous column stills. Because of this, you must look at the label to understand what is in the bottle. If the label says Cachaça Alambique, Cachaça de Alambique, the spirit was legally required to be made using copper pot stills. If it just says cachaça, the spirit was made using any type of still, like a column, or maybe a blend of different distillation methods. Now, distillers also control the strength of their distillation to dictate style. Some distill to a low strength to retain a pronounced herbaceous sugarcane and fruity fermentation character, while others distill higher for a lighter, more generic aromatic profile. For us cachaça connoisseurs, the copper pot still, the Alambique, is pretty much non-negotiable. As the vino boils, the copper acts as a catalyst, reacting with sulfur compounds that have been produced during fermentation, specifically dimethyl trisulfide, and that neutralizes the off smells like rotten eggs. And in a single distillation, our distiller must be surgical with their fractions or cuts. The head, or the cabeza, is roughly 3 to 5% of the volume, and it's, as you might expect, high in methanol and ethyl acetates, which have those acetone notes. This is discarded or used as fuel. Then the heart, which is the corazón, this is the soul of the spirit. It contains the ethanol and the essential esters like ethyl butyrate that provide the fruity, pineapple-like nose. And then the tail, or the cauda, this is high in fusel oils and acetic acid. Including too much tail results in a spirit that is heavy, oily, and can cause a rougher hangover. Now, before we go deep into the aging protocols, we kind of need to address sweetness. Most cachaças, particularly the unaged expressions, are commonly sweetened. Brazilian law allows up to 30 grams per liter of sugar to be added post-distillation. If a cachaça is sweetened between 6 and 30 grams per liter, it must be officially labeled as Cachaça Adoçada. Note that similarity to agave and avocado. If it contains less than 6 grams per liter, it simply remains cachaça. Now let's go to the maturation. This is where cachaça pretty much stands alone in the world of spirits. While the rest of the world is largely confined to the Quercus oak genus, Brazilian distillers utilize several different indigenous hardwoods. Each wood acts like a different spice rack. Say we're using Amburana. This can bring intense cinnamon, tonka bean, and vanilla. It's very heavy in coumarin. Maybe we do Bálsamo. This brings herbaceous, piney, and kind of a slight mineral note. It also has high tannins. Then we have Jequitibá Rosa. This will soften the spirit without really changing any color and brings some subtle, elegant floral notes. Then we have Amendoim Bravo and Araruva. These are both native hardwoods, and some add a little to the spirit, while others will add distinct colors, aromas, and textures. And then we have Ipe. Now this will impart a golden hue and a spicy, dry finish. It's very high in lignans. Now any advanced aging is strictly classified by law. To be labeled Cachaça envelhecida, aged cachaça, at least 50% of the volume must have been aged for a minimum of 1 year in a wooden vessel no larger than 700 liters, and the specific wood used must be stated on the label. If it is aged in wood but doesn't meet these strict volume or time requirements, it is labeled Cachaça armazenada, which also must list the wood type. For the pinnacle of aged expression, look for premium, where 100% of the spirit is aged in 700-liter or smaller vessels for at least 1 year, or extra premium, where 100% of the spirit is aged in those 700-liter or smaller vessels for at least 3 years. Now, cachaça is currently undergoing a premiumization similar to what happened to mezcal maybe 15 years ago. We are seeing a move towards single estate bottlings, terroir-specific expressions from Minas Gerais, and a focus on sustainability and organic certifications. For us advanced tasters, cachaça offers a sensory bridge between the vegetal funk of rum Agricole and the barrel-driven complexity, say, of single malt scotch. It is a spirit of the forest, the soil, and the sun of Brazil. So next time you hold a glass of cachaça, look past the Caipirinha, look for the specific wood on the label, the artisanal Alambique distillation, and the pure, fresh sugarcane juice that defines this terroir. Cheers.